All right guys, like I said in the last video, we're gonna go through some details on this roof. Mainly, this video is all gonna be about the valley, and starting that valley, we obviously needed to make sure we did our layout right. So that's what Greg and I were just doing up on the roof. We were getting the center of the building, and then we were working our way out so we know exactly where that first panel stands. We're gonna go ahead and cut a couple panels, and then we're gonna get up on the roof, and we're gonna show you how this all goes together. So let's get into it. All right, now you guys have been watching us do the Snap Table Pro, and that's amazing, but I realize not everybody's got, you know, just under 20 grand to drop for that table, especially if you're not gonna do it all the time. So this is how we prep the end of a panel if you don't have that table. First off, I'm gonna give myself a nice little mark on each side, coming back about an inch on this side here, because I've got an inch bend around. And then we're gonna take our snips. You're gonna come down at a nice angle, and that's so this rib is not in your way later. Something you learn through experience. No one's gonna teach you that. We're gonna cut this off. We're gonna give ourselves a little bit of an angle. Same thing on the other side. This time I wanna leave part of this rib so that I can close the opening of the rib, which you'll see later. So I'm going back to that 1 inch mark. Okay, giving myself a notch. We're gonna cut this off. So this is the little tab that I'm gonna leave right here. That's so it can cover this gap. Now, what you're gonna need though is either a bender like this, so this is just a Midwest metal bender, or a set of hand benders. I find it easiest to use one of these because I can just set it in here. And it's gonna be a 1 inch bend, which is what I cut. And then we're just gonna take it, bend it over. So what that has done is given us our 1 inch hem that will lock onto our residential E flashing. Like I said, if you don't have one of these, you're gonna take your hand benders and you're gonna need to work it around. Totally doable, not as clean. And obviously neither of these are as fast as the Snap Table, but they're pretty inexpensive. So there's a panel, it's all prepped, ready to go. We got our tab, take it up to the roof. Whew. All right, there's the
87.
Who's got a helmet? All right, so these are the 3 pieces that we need to get into the valley. Probably the most amount of work that we'll do all day is in the next little bit. So let's get up there now and let's show you how this all goes together. This is what we laid out earlier, guys, was our 16-inch marks so that we know exactly where all of our pieces go. And then we snap this line for the first full that's gonna go all the way up eventually. Okay, so this is a very important line, and when we come out of this valley way up here, this last piece needs to hit that line perfectly, otherwise this does not work well. So working back out of the center is the important part. We need it to be, this one I've got to cut to 27, and then we'll have to get some cedar breather here. Okay, so because this piece is not full, I just need to know where I'm at based on these marks so that I can cut it down accurately. And it's a little breezy up here, isn't it? We're gonna go 14 3/8. First piece is important because it literally will start the entire roof.
You have the shears right here as well.
Yeah, by the time I get the shears in here, I don't think I'm saving a whole lot of time. And this will be a really, really nice straight line.
You would have been done by now.
I'd still be thinking about something. All right, I'm just making a mark where my bend up is gonna start. All right, so that's the little bend. You can obviously do that by hand for the sake of what we're trying to do here. I'm not gonna do it by hand just because I got, you know, time constraints. I'm trying to get this done. Okay, now we got this little 1 inch. This bend up here is really not that necessary in the design of this roof, how we do our trims, but it is definitely good practice. They call this like, I don't know, pan end or some, I've heard different terms. I'm not really sure. When this guy goes on here, this is gonna be bent up against the wall. So if there was wind-driven rain, it wouldn't keep going. However, the way we're gonna do our trims when we're done, there really won't be access to this area with water anyway. So I'm not too concerned, but I just wanted to set this piece in here, make sure I like it. I do. So now we're gonna lay down some of our cedar breather. And this is obviously something that probably a lot of people aren't going to do, but we're doing it on this job. This is just a rain screen air gap made for underneath cedar shingles or also metal roofing, believe it or not. I'm just gonna take this up, Greg, so I can get a cut. Something like that. So obviously, don't expect you to use the cedar breather. It's a nice little add, provides an air gap underneath your metal, aids in condensation drying. That's the main goal of it. So we're gonna line this first one up. Like I said, it's very important. First one is the one that's gonna set the whole roof off. Greg, my man, thank you. I didn't like my bend here, guys. I'm just being open and honest. I definitely made a wrong choice here. Now that this piece is here, let's go up and let's work into this detail here. I think probably the most important parts are up there, so we gotta get through these couple pieces first. Yeah, we're gonna do 27, and then I don't need to snap it. I just need to get a mark up here so I can verify what my angle is in case we're not dead on perfect, you know? This is edge of panel. So we're 16 3/4 edge of panel here.
16 5/8 was the lower one?
Yeah, 16 5/8.
So that's like right there.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it, dude.
And then 16 3/4 right on there.
There's nothing we can do. I'm gonna cut as straight as I can and we're just gonna bend it up. So hold that end. I'm gonna try to take this off as clean as possible.
And you can't go on the top of this rib, can you? Since it's 3/4?
No, we tried that, didn't we? Wait, what does that do though? If I go on the top of the rib, I still can't.
Well, it already has your bend up.
No, but it's too.
It'll be too big on the 5/8, but potentially maybe we could scrunch it in or.
It's a stretch. I'm good down here, but up there is what really matters. So here's what I need to do. I'm gonna put a screw in down here, and then we're gonna push that over.
Yep.
If this works out, this is actually pretty amazing. And I give A for the day to Greg here this morning.
Just the morning.
Yeah, just the morning. You got some work to do.
I mean, I just gotta go.
Another
3/16.
quarter. I mean, I can see it here. We're really stretched over it.
Want to work it together or?
I just figured you'd work on the top, and we're just gonna just a little at a time. We don't need to go crazy.
I'm getting all.
To be honest, I'm just happy that we were able to get a nice clean cut. The question is, are we gonna rip it down more or just bend it in another quarter inch?
I think bend another 1/4 inch, yeah.
I agree. Let me get that line defined.
There you go.
Let's give this a try, see if we were able to get it bent up enough. Got it? Right there.
Yeah, we're at 15 3/4.
You're definitely moving her in.
Am I?
I mean, this is probably the most important piece here. How close are we?
16th off.
Okay, this gonna be fine. We'll get her.
Nah, I'm like half a six, like a 30 seconds. Really.
Whoa, a 30-second?
Yeah, I don't know if we can do that.
That's the thickness of the chalk line.
Yeah, pretty much.
Key takeaway, guys. Design your building better so that these pieces fit in better without having to do too much modification. When I designed this, I figured this steel being a full piece here, but then we added this sheathing and it kind of made this, well, 1/2 inch smaller, which means we're a little bit tighter than I wanted to be, but it's okay. The important thing is that we're trying to stay on this line. So now we're going up underneath the roof. We've got our flashing here. This will all get detailed at a later time, so stick around and that'll be in a future video how we detail this. Now we got to do this piece. This piece is important because this piece will not go all the way to the peak. This will be a 2-piece panel. This is the only panel on the roof that will get overlapped right here. This detail. Actually, there's 4 of them, so don't come at me in the comments saying,
Kyle, what about the other ones?
there's 4 details that are all the same right here. And what we've got is basically the valley is going to land on top of this piece. So that's where the trickiness is, that's where the detailing is, and that's where you got to take your time because this is where all the water is going to come down the roof right up here.
There, so that's 71 3/8.
This so we can get an accurate measurement. All right, now we're right on our pink line.
Yep.
I mean, close enough.
Yep.
Okay, so go ahead and make a mark on the outside, right there. That'll give us an exact spot. You can see where it is. And go 1 9/16 or something.
1 9/16.
So this is important because we obviously have this fascia that we have to cut around, but we also need to bend up our panel so that we're flashed properly. So that's what we're trying to figure out is exactly where that mark is. What was this, Greg? 71 3/8. 5 5/8. Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. And then measure up 86 and then cut down on an angle.
That's what we cut down on an angle?
Yeah, because 86 won't work all the way. So mark 86. You just got to get it out of our way, you know.
Not the for J channel,
Okay.
but it never like.
We just need to put our engineering minds to it, you know.
I don't have an engineer
Okay,
mind.
take that end.
You want me to pull that plastic before we get up in there?
Nah, we can do it from the bottom. All right, so that right there is what we got to cut. Now, before we put this piece in, you guys will notice there's not cedar breather up there where that valley is going to die in because we want to try to keep that kind of as minimal as possible. When we're done with these details, and you might be saying, well, I feel like the valley would be where you would want the cedar breather for some moisture potential there, but we should not have it there. That is actually the least of my worries, and you guys will see why. It'll be very well detailed. It's a very good system. But now, right where Greg is going, we've got that angle up, that roll up is gonna be cut hopefully perfectly to fit right over top of the fascia. You'll see that right there where Greg's pointing to. That is our flash up point, so any water that comes off the valley won't be able to come back. And this point right here, where the fascia dies in, there'll be a little bit of a detail that we'll do later to make that even more impenetrable. But the good news is we've got that flashed way up high, and our soffit and stuff will be much lower at the end of the job. So all in due time, we will show those details. The important thing right now is that this piece is cut flat up there. We'll get this secured, and then we'll work on our valley pan and all those details to make sure that that's a good dry detail as well. So let's get this guy screwed in, Greg. Good luck. May the force be with you.
And also with you.
So we just went ahead and ran some of this Weather Logic tape. Next thing we got to do is get our eave trim that is going to be part of the cleat for our valley. So you guys remember when we did the vapor dry, and if you didn't, we did a whole video on this stuff. I absolutely love this product. We left this residential eave flashing off, whereas we did it on the rest of the build because we wanted to be able to flash this properly before we put it on. So now that we have that all done, we'll go ahead and put our residential eave flashing on. So we're just gonna take this till touches my roof, right there. Okay, so this is the residential eave flashing that I'm talking about. This is what our steel roof locks onto. 412 pitch, so I need to go 72, 71 and a half, with an angle. This is not exact science stuff here. I'm trying to match the angle of the roof. Hopefully I can do it. We're just taking a stab in the dark here. That I can deal with. I like it. Okay, so this piece here, Greg, go ahead and mark your edge of roof. Go ahead and give yourself another inch or so. Just eyeball it, it's all good. Inch and maybe a 30-second, man. A for the day. You just don't want to let go of that.
It's not good enough.
That's for you. Don't say I never gave you nothing. All right, so this piece of trim here, you can see we've basically cut to the trim down to the roof line. And so our goal here is just to kind of keep bulk water out. Obviously, we're not looking to seal this off, although we could put silicone back here. Listen, one of the things that I believe is that don't put sealant in a place where water could potentially get and be blocked from exiting. Okay, what I mean by that is this is all flashed. So if condensation got back here, it's gonna work its way over. If I shove a bunch of sealant in here and then push this down tight, now nothing can come out there. So do your best to mechanically flash things and then worry about putting sealant in places that aren't gonna block water from exiting. You guys notice we have this piece of plywood down here. That's to space out for our LP fascia trim that we're gonna be doing here. We need to screw this off real quick, and then we will put our valley pan in. This is going pretty good, though.
It is going pretty good, yeah.
I like to hit the white and then kind of run my finger into that little crack there. Not that it really matters. We don't suspect any real moisture to be here, but since we're doing the cedar breather, if there is condensation, which there probably will be, underneath the panel, it can come down and work out over top of this hem and work its way out. We've got this panel tucked up underneath, flashed properly. We've got our trim that comes over top of this. This is what's gonna lock down all these panels, and we'll also use it to lock down our valley pan. So we need to decide exactly or figure out where our valley pan is gonna go. Greg, let's snap a line. So we're just looking for where this roof planes in. Looks like we got pretty darn close with our eyeball on this trim. Greg, go ahead and snap it, big dog, if you can.
Okay, I'm kind of like pushing down on my...
Okay, I'll get it, I got it.
Okay.
All right, now we have that line that defines the center of our valley, and we'll use that to line up our pans. So now we can go ahead and get our first valley pan, and we'll get that set in here and show you how we get this all locked on. All right, so this is our W valley. They call it a W valley because it kind of looks like a W. Makes sense, right? We're real sophisticated here in the trades in our name calling, like our J channel, our Z flashing, our F and J. It all makes sense. So what I need to do is I'm gonna line up where my center line is on the W valley, and I'm gonna make myself a simple mark, and that is so that I can drag it down further, still see where my center point is, and I basically am gonna come down until this corner is over here. So I'm on my mark right here, and what I need to do is I'm gonna push down, I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm gonna follow the backside of this trim that we're laying on top. That's the trim line that I just marked. I need to grab myself a straight edge. Where's that level at? We're gonna do this, and then what I need to do is give myself a 1-inch line. And this is gonna be for my hem. Now we're gonna go ahead and bend this. Nothing major, we don't wanna do major bends at once. We just wanna make a nice, consistent bend. It'll look prettier, even though you might never see this. Now, this hem that I just made should hook onto our trim. And if I move it up to where my line was, and Greg is good, now that hem is nice and hooked right over top of this. I need to keep it nice and tight, and I'm gonna make this mark here. Let's just double check this before I go any further. I'm gonna use my square to figure out where the center point of my valley is. Once again, we're gonna give ourselves a 1-inch mark. And this is so we can do another hem. Okay, so this hem here is actually not going to latch onto anything. So this hem is mainly so that we can get a nice clean line that is not a cut line that won't develop any sort of edge rust over time. So this guy right here, we're just gonna go ahead and close. Okay, so this is a nice closed hem, nice and tight. Next thing I need to do I follow my point up or do I come out so that it's a little bit more of an overhang? The goal is we just don't want somebody looking up, it being wide open. Now we can go ahead and put this on. We'll slide it up to our line so we know that we're running straight. Just to stop water from making its way up there. That's all we're gonna do. Everything else is properly flashed. So like I said earlier, I try to minimize the use of sealants. If we're gonna use something, you know, we use this on other areas through the roof. It's basically Lexel from SASHCO, only it flies down to -18 Celsius and it's not as liquidy, like it doesn't, what do they call it? It doesn't puddle as much. So when you start using it on a very hot day on a roof, like at this black roof, if you don't use the proper sealant, it can just kind of like flow like water. This is gonna hold up a lot longer. So first piece of valley down, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get this screwed down to the deck. We're not gonna put a lot of fasteners in this because we will be coming through with a bunch more fasteners with our cleat trim. So I'm just gonna make sure I like it. And that's about it. We're not gonna put any more fasteners in this, but now we can go ahead and run the rest of our valley. We got 2.5 more pans to put in, or 1.5 more pans. So then we'll move on to our next step, which will be putting our cleat trims and then figuring out the angles of our panels. All right, so we've got our first pan in that went over top of our last roof panel, and we've got a snap line in the center of the valley that determines where our valley pan is gonna go. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give myself a 5-inch line here, and we're gonna start connecting our valley pans so that we can put our roof panels down. So first thing I'm gonna do actually is snip these right where I made my marks. This is so that we can overlap our valley pans and keep them good and watertight. Okay, so we're just gonna open up these hems. And then we're gonna take some through the roof. This is about the best sealant that I have used. And we're gonna put ourselves a nice bead. This is what we use. There are different valley pans, but we use the W because I do like this ridge here in the middle. kind of directs the water down and out instead of down and maybe potentially back up your panel. So now that we have the through the roof bead here, all we're going to do is we're going to bring this down and lap over top of it. Like so. And I'm going to put one fastener in here just above where I made the bead of through the roof. And then here I'm just going to make sure that I'm lined up with my snap line. That's going to ensure a nice straight valley line. Now we're just going to come up here and do the exact same thing. We're going to give ourselves our notches, and then we'll get figured out how big of a piece that we need up here. Greg, you want to go ahead and cut that? To be honest, Greg, you could probably just cut it in half or give me a 60-incher. So now that we got this fastened down, we're just going to go ahead and take our hammer and we'll put these bends right back over. You can see my sealant right here. Okay, so before I go ahead and put sealant on this one and get her fastened down, I'm just going to set it in here. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of look at where it hits my roof line so that I can do maybe a little bit of a bend over just for a little bit of added protection. Nothing precise. Well, I mean, it's going to be kind of close, but. And the point of these bend overs is strictly because this is a valley, wind-driven rain possibly could work up, and we're just, instead of having an open valley, because this will be an open ridge vent that has no coverage, it gives us somewhere to, we're just going to bend this over the ridge. So it's not like this is a necessary thing. It's just that to me it takes very little effort to go ahead and do this. And while we're up here, I just think it closes things off nice. So we're just going to take our benders, give ourselves a little bend over, and I could actually bend them up, to be honest, and keep water from going.
You want to pull that plastic?
Yeah, I just want to make sure it even fits good, because
I still need to go uphill a little bit.
How much?
Right there, actually.
Somewhere in there?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Does that suffice for you?
You know, I think that will work for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessary. I just like to do it instead of just a raw edge sitting here. I think it looks a little better. I feel a little better about it. Does it matter? Probably not.
All right.
Always try to put the fasteners nice and high. There we go, that's our valley pan. Let's pull this plastic, and then we're gonna go ahead and get some lines snapped where we're gonna put our cleat trims. The cleat trims are important because that's what's gonna make this valley nice and waterproof when we're done with this detail. All right, now that we have the valley pan, we're gonna make a mark at 6 inches. 6 inches is because that is the dimension that we want to run our cleat trim. What we're gonna do is to make sure that that is straight, because this will dictate our valley line even more so than the valley itself, because this is where our panels will be installed. This needs to be nice and straight. We don't like a lot of chalk on the metal, so I always give it a little flick. I need a little bit more string, Greg. Good?
Yep.
Now, that is gonna be where the edge of our cleat trim is. We need some double beaded butyl tape, because that's what we're gonna use to lock down and seal our valley so that no water can ever work its way up underneath of it. Okay, so we got 2 beads and then this center gap. So our goal is to always fasten our screws to the center of that. And I barely have a chalk line, but what I'm going to do is run my butyl tape right along the edge of my chalk line. And for now, I'm just kind of putting my hand on it to get it to stick. The thing with butyl tape is it works best under pressure. So we want to create a lot of pressure on the top side of it to create that seal, and we'll be using all of our screws for that. So this here is our cleat trim, and it's a flat cleat, kind of like our residential eave. This is a cleat to lock our panel down in the valley. So it's gonna go something like this, and we're gonna follow that chalk line the same way we did with the butyl. So this is a very sticky stuff. So I'm just gonna press it down right onto my butyl and follow that chalk line. This is what our valley is gonna lock onto, and this is what's gonna create a nice straight valley line, hopefully. That's the goal. But that actually comes into play if we don't cut our angles right on our panels themselves. Okay, I'm gonna give myself a slight overlap, and that's more so when I go to put my roof panels on. It will make it easier for me to get them to slide. That's something you learn through experience. Now what we're gonna do is just gonna fill that cleat trim up with screws every about 10 inches or so. And we're always gonna try to aim right through the middle of where that butyl tape was. That's gonna give us the best connection, best seal, which is obviously very important going through a valley. It's all about the pressure. See the bubble? That won't create a good pressure point. Okay guys, well, that's the valley. So from working at the bottom, coming up here, getting the valley overlapped, flashed properly, up to the peak of our roof, putting our cleat trim on, detailing all of this, this is the valley install. The next thing that we need to do is start running panels. Now, that's gonna be the next video. So we're gonna go ahead and stop this here, just so you have, not too much to digest. If any of this was confusing, you can go back and watch it. But now the next thing that we're gonna do is get our angle figured out. We're gonna get our layout figured out, because we will start with a panel way up there, and we will work our way out of the valley to this panel here that will overlap the one that we installed underneath our valley. And that next full piece will kind of be the end of this detail that is quite confusing for a lot of people, to be honest. And even I was very, not stressed about it, but anxious to do it and to try to do it as good as possible. That'll be the next video. Make sure you guys subscribe if you want to follow along with this build. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this, if this was helpful at all. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. We'll catch you on that next video. See you later.